Hello, I'm BrigantiaBlackbird of Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Sunday, December 22nd, 2024. It is the second day of Capricorn, the day of Santa Claus. And on this night of Yuletide, we are celebrating the Wild Hunt. So during the Wild Hunt, Odin is leading the gods and collecting the souls of the deceased. It is a night of heady energy, of roving spirits. So definitely do not neglect your home protections. The veil is still pretty thin. It doesn't really, it'll start knitting itself back together once our agricultural growing season gets back going a year. But up until then, expect the Oogie Boogies to be a bit active. So if you would like to make offerings on this night, you might include meat, honey, baked goods, things of that nature. This is a great night for telling scary stories, watching ghost videos, and horror movies, which, has always been one of the traditions of Yuletide and indeed even of Christmas. So light some candles in honor of the deceased and the gods of the dead, and keep your senses perked up for anything that might be roving in your vicinity. Next up, our astrology. The sun is in Capricorn, cardinal Earth, which represents ambition. The moon is in third quarter Virgo, at least to begin with today. It's a mutable Earth sign. It is task oriented. Then at 7:20 a.m. Central Time, it goes void of course. Then it moves at 1:08 p.m. Central Time into third quarter Libra, cardinal air, which represents partnerships. And then at 4:18 p.m. Central Time, it goes into the fourth quarter. Mercury is in Sagittarius, mutable fire, which is to be opinionated. Venus is in Aquarius, fixed air, which is to be intellectual. Mars is retrograding in Leo, fixed fire, which represents tempered action. Jupiter is retrograding in Gemini, mutable air, which is to broaden perspective. Saturn is in Pisces, mutable water, which represents nostalgia. Uranus is retrograding in Taurus, fixed earth, representing rebellion. Neptune is in Pisces, mutable water, which represents intuition. Pluto is in Aquarius, fixed air, representing reformation. Now for those retrogrades. For Mars, reconsider what you really want. For Jupiter, reconnect with your true path. For Uranus, reconsider how you rebel. And for Chiron, restore the heroic spirit. Our moon, once it is in that fourth quarter, the time has come for us to release stagnant energy. Anything that's just hanging around for no good reason, get rid of it, especially during this time of year. Now, for the Libra moon theme, think harmonious relating. It's going to smooth out how we interact with others, which just in time, just in time during this festive season, we are needing things to get easier for us all to get along. So today we have that Capricorn sun that's kind of turning our minds towards the future and everything we're hoping to accomplish. And then we have the Libra and waning moon enabling us to get what's no longer needed out of our systems. This is really super beneficial timing. As the calendar New Year is quickly approaching, just go ahead, shed anything that you don't want to carry with you into 2025. And this also involves any kind of psychological or emotional burdens that you might have been carrying with you. Time to check that out. Today's tarot card is the Nine of Gifts. Nines represent foundations, leadership, idealism, and completeness. The suit of gifts relates to the suit of pentacles and coins and the element of earth. The keywords for the card are accomplishment, discernment, and illusion. So you have an interesting image associated with these concepts. You see kind of the fruits of accomplishment, what looks to be a comfortable home, festive tree, plenty of presents under there, what looks like a cozy night dress and some slippers, roaring fire. It all looks very good. This is the product of previous hard work. However, this charming picture, it could also represent illusion because, as you might notice, our figure, she's sitting there alone. She might have all of the material trappings of a successful, well-lived life, but she doesn't have family around her. She doesn't have friends around her. So this illusion that the things make the life, that's something that perhaps we should contemplate this season, especially if we're wrestling with some family issues or we're trying to knit back ties or figure out whether or not it's even worth it at all. I think this is an image worth keeping in mind because we've been encouraged to isolate ourselves in so many different ways, severing social ties over disagreements and things of that nature. But what is it left with? It's left with people who, maybe they do have a materially comfortable life, but it's still an empty one because there aren't other people there. Humans do derive a lot of meaning from their relationships with other humans, and we benefit from remembering that and acting accordingly, of course. Then today's Celtic triad, three things of which everything is capable and without which nothing can be: strength of body and mind, knowledge, and love of intuitive wisdom. So, without bodily strength and a reasonably capable mind, we can't even sustain our own lives, let alone achieve anything else. So, these are things that we must have a reasonable degree of, or at least, if perhaps our body isn't all that strong, or we have some kind of health issues, if we can at least retain our minds, we can cope, we can manage. But if we don't have decent bodily strength, if we don't have our minds, we're at the mercy of other people's charity at that point. Then knowledge. Without knowledge, you can't proceed successfully in any endeavor. I mean, imagine someone trying to perform brain surgery without the knowledge to do so. How do you think that's going to go? Or to put up a building, or to raise cattle, or to paint a work of art. I suppose we do know what that's like. We have museums filled with some rather hideous modern art. But it's just so easy to tell the difference between the efforts of someone who knows what they're doing and someone who clearly does not. So we do need to have and look to the state of our knowledge. And then we have intuitive wisdom and the love of these things. Intuition is based upon, sensory observation, what all of our senses are taking in. And then wisdom is lessons learned from applied experience. And loving the product of both these things in combination, that creates a kind of fertility of the soul that makes a person capable of great deeds because you have the imagination, you have the experience to perhaps test out your ideas or actually make them manifest in the world. We need all of these things. This is why the concept of becoming a full and complete person, not just seeing yourself as your job or seeing yourself as your spiritual path or seeing yourself as your family role, but seeing these things as components of your whole. Seeing things as you needing to develop every aspect of yourself to bring it into cohesion with one another. And it is the whole of yourself that's actually going to be able to face that world successfully and to do things successfully. Quite a different message than what we get from some of the modern advice givers, isn't it? Then today's magical correspondences are on the theme of happiness. Colors gold, the plant is jasmine, the animal is the goldfinch, and the crystal is amber. And I think it's worth remembering that happiness is something we create. It's not something that others can bestow upon us externally. Other people can do a lot of things that can greatly enhance our life, but they cannot make us happy. Even the person who we are closest to in the world, they can't make us be happy. We have to permit ourselves to be happy. We have to create things that make us happy. We have to work on relationships, and through that mutuality of the relationship, that is something that can create happiness. But it's not something that anyone else can do for us. It's a bit like breathing. No one else can breathe for you, and no one else can be happy for you. Today's hearth-keeping hint is about those mirrors. So do not forget to keep your mirrors shiny. Don't forget to cleanse them regularly. We have a lot of energy afoot, as mentioned before. And mirrors, along with all reflective surfaces, remember, are portals of energy. So don't leave this energetic door unlocked. And if you need any advice about how to perhaps safeguard your mirrors, let me know in the comments and I will try to get back to you as swiftly as possible. Then for today's practice, celebrate the wild hunt. It's an exciting time. Greet the dawn. If you're thinking about the archetype of the old man winter, what can he tell us about past Yuletides? What is this voice of tradition able to convey to us? Then for a thing to perhaps meditate upon, it's creating the light. And then if you happen to have a piece of topaz, you might carry or wear it today. In our creative corner, if you don't already own stockings, it's not too late to make them. It's fairly quick, even if you do have to do hand sewing on them. What you do if you are having to start completely from scratch is you draw the shape of a large sock on a sheet of paper to make a pattern. And then you fold a piece of cloth that you're using for this purpose in half, and you put your pattern on top of that, and then you cut out your stocking. Then you stitch the open side together, then you tidy up the top edges, and then presto, you have a stocking. It would take a little bit of time, not as much as what you might imagine, especially if you get into a rhythm with your stitching. You don't have to have a sewing machine for that. It won't necessarily be very sophisticated, but it would certainly be something that would serve the purpose. So if you don't have any and you're not really wanting to buy them, you might be able to make one relatively on the cheap. And then, of course, you can do better next year if you're not satisfied with your efforts. So, thought I'd toss that one out there. Then for today's journal prompt, the light has returned and it is growing once more. Does this fill you with hope, or do you still feel that you are very much deep within the dark? Is it harder for you to embrace this gradually increasing light? So that is what I have for you today, everyone. Have a magical day. I wish you bright blessings and all of the joys of the season. I will, of course, see you again in tomorrow's edition of the Daily Forecast, and hope to see you there as well. But bye.